Okay, this video is another example how to scrape for Emulation Station, and specifically we're going to look at the Raspberry Pi or RetroPie version to get it running with that. This scraper is written by Stephen Self, and he's released an update about a week ago for the systems, particularly to deal with Game Boy ROMs, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, but it also deals with SNES, NES and a couple of others already. So what we're going to do is download the Raspberry Pi version, and you can see on this page here https github.com/self/scraper/releases, and on here we can get the RPI or the Raspberry Pi version that he's already compiled for us. Like I say, you've got the source version there if you want to do it yourself. So I'm going to right mouse on that, save link as, and save it to my desktop. Mine's called it brackets 2 because I've downloaded it a couple of times, but yours will probably look like that. Hit save. Down there, has a bit of a think about it. It's about 7 meg, I think. Now you'll get that to your desktop. That's here. Double click that file, and inside a single file, scraper. Drag that out here, and there it is on the desktop, ready to go to the Pi. Now I'm going to use an FTP client to get it there. You can use FileZilla or whatever you prefer to use. FileZilla here. I'm going to open my Raspberry Pi connection. Mine happens to be on this IP. The username's Pi and the password's Raspberry. Connect in, and it goes straight to my home directory. And this scraper is most practical if you put it in the ROMs directory. So if I scroll down here, all the ones prefixed with a full stop are hidden. So normally when you list a directory using terminal, you won't see those, so you'll just see RetroPie, which is where we want to go, and in there you've got ROMs. And for this example, let's use the SNES section because it's been working for that for a while and it's a good one to demonstrate. So in SNES, the first thing you want to do is create an images directory for the scraper to put its particular images in, and you can do that in FileZilla anyway. You can do this with terminal as well, but it's kind of easier here because it's got a nice GUI interface. On the folder you're on, the SNES folder, if you right mouse there, you can create a directory, and here I would just type images, and then I hit OK, and it would create it, and it would be there. And so it's just ready and waiting for the scraper to do its thing. Then what I'm going to do is go to the desktop folder, and I can see there's the scraper file that I expanded earlier. It's about 7 meg, and I can just click and drag that over here, and it says this has just popped up because it's already there. I'm just going to say overwrite, and it'll appear again. Okay, so that's copied the scraper over to the same folder as all my ROMs, so you can see there the ROMs are listed, and within that under S somewhere will be the scraper file. It doesn't really matter, it sits there. And what that'll do, that'll generate, when we run it, a gamelist.xml file, and it'll sit in the same directory as all the ROMs. And when Emulation Station starts, it does look in this directory for a gamelist.xml, and it uses it. But it does seem as though there's also, if there isn't one existing here, you can put one in a separate directory if you need to, or one could override the other. If you go back up to the directories here, rather than going RetroPie and ROMs, if we go back up to that home Pi directory and go Emulation Station, which is a hidden directory, you've got a game list folder in there, and then you've got the game list for these systems. So if I go into Mega Drive, I've got my game list system, gamelist.xml file here that it would use. So I think the one in the actual directory in the ROMs overrides this, because it certainly did seem to in my case, but it's just so you're aware there is another place that game lists could exist. If something weird goes on, you could look in that directory as well, and that's home Pi Emulation Station with a full stop prefix /game lists. You can see them there, but the scraper will just put it in the directory you're in. When the one we're going to do as an example is home Pi RetroPie ROM SNES, and there's also the image directory that you'll have created a minute ago. Okay, that's pretty much what you've got to do in FileZilla. Now we'll open up Terminal to log in and run the command. So if I open up, I'm going to use PuTTY, but you can connect how you want. Again, my IP is this. I'm going to open that connection, and it asks me what I want to log in as. Let's go user Pi, password Raspberry, logs in, then it puts us in the home Pi directory. So then I'm just going to put ls to see where we are, and I'm going to cd into RetroPie, and within there we've got the ROMs directory, so we go ROMs, and then within that I'm going to go into the SNES directory. And there I've got all my ROMs and the scraper command. Now I'm just going to jump back to FileZilla a minute. One thing I remembered, sometimes I do find a bit of a problem with permissions running the scraper. So to play safe, if you right mouse on it and hit file permissions, you can set it to 777, and it just means it's just going to run when you run the command, rather than it saying you're not the right user or different users got different permissions for this. It just makes it more straightforward. So back here, to run that, I'm going to put // and run the scraper command. And if I jump back to the web page, you can see that Stephen Self's got a brief overview of how to run this, and he suggests that you run it with this flag, thumb only, and he's got here so it doesn't download the much larger images that the Raspberry Pi doesn't really need and it can't handle, so it just gets the thumbnail ones. So if I put that there, it's // scraper, and then it's space and hyphen thumb _ only, and if I hit that, there we go, it's starting to process the ROMs that are in that directory. If it's doing it about the rate of 1 a second. Now it's saying skipping a lot here because I've already done it, so it's intelligent enough not to do it again. If you didn't have them here, it would take about a second per ROM, which is pretty quick, and it does grab quite a lot of metadata info for that. You'll see that in a second in Emulation Station. If it can't find it, if the hash doesn't match the database that it's looking up against, it will try about 3 times and then give up. But largely, it will find them all. It's mostly some of the Japanese ones and the more sort of obscure alternate names it gets confused with. But pretty much they'll all be there. There you just sort of flip up at the top there as an example where it couldn't find one and it tries a few times. So it runs down this, and at the same time it's downloading the image to the images directory. So you've got an example of that. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's a pretty straightforward command to run. Like you saw, it's I'll just cancel that for a minute so you can see the command again. .scraper thumb only, and you can run that in each directory that you'd want to do this for. So if you wanted to do your GBA ROMs or your GB ROMs, copy scraper into the GB ROMs directory rather than the ROMs SNES directory we've done here, and run the same process. It's much quicker than using the inbuilt Emulation Station version, which can hang quite a lot and it needs the GUI interface to do it. This is just a script at command line, and all runs through it. Any questions on this, make sure you stick it in the comments, and I'll try to help you out. Okay, so back in the Emulation Station interface, you can see that if we go into Super Nintendo, which is the one we ran the script for, it's now got in its list all of the metadata that was pulled through into that gamelist.xml file. And you can see that it's doing a pretty good job compared to some of the other scrapers. I know there's another scraper video I've done where, although it's really fast and pretty efficient, it doesn't bring back all of the metadata for all of the systems. This one's a bit more expansive like that. So you can see here it's bringing back the rating, the release date, the developer publisher, the genres right. I'm not sure it's bringing back the players right, because that should be a 2-player game, and I think it's just 1 player for everything. That might be because it's not in the database. Last played and times played is just what Emulation Station keeps storing for you anyway. And you can see if I stay on this particular one, or if I scroll to another one where the text is larger than, or the game description is larger than the screen area, if you wait a while, it'll automatically happily scroll like normal. There we go, so it's rolling up there so you can see all the description text. So that's really useful to see all of the game description to help you choose what game you're going to play. On this scraping, when we ran the command with the -thumb image option, it's bringing back all the images for you. You can see in the corner there's a box art one. So this is a little different to that other scraper video. In the other scraping video you can choose exactly what image work that you're going to use. You could use whether it's the marquee for the arcade or a screenshot in-game or different type of image. This one always seems to use the box art, which isn't a problem. It's still really clear and you can see what you're going to do. And it is, as you've seen, a pretty quick and easy way of getting all of this image work to appear for those given systems, and it will probably expand to cover more and more systems as well. So it's a great way to get your metadata up to date.